Alicia Reyes slid into the driver's seat of engine 42 before first light, the cab's dashboard gauges glowing soft amber against her polished turnout gear. As she ran through her pre-shift checklist, air pressure, hose couplings, radio channels, she thought back to her earliest days on this same rig, when she'd been a scrappy volunteer with more determination than experience. Back then, she'd arrived at every call with her grandmother's old canvas duffel bag, stuffed with firefighting gloves that were always 2 sizes too big. She'd climbed endless stair mock drills until her legs trembled, raced through smokehouse exercises until her lungs burned, and volunteered for every water rescue training, even on days off. Within 5 years, she'd risen through the ranks. Rookie firefighter, then engineer mastering the pump's hydraulics, then lieutenant leading her own engine company on night shifts, where she guided crews through kitchen fires, fender benders, and the occasional chemical spill. She'd logged more hours than many veterans, her compass unwavering when a thick fog of smoke turned day into night. And when the department introduced urban search and rescue, she'd volunteered for the most dangerous assignments: scaling collapsed walls, crawling into basement voids, and emerging with survivors clutched in her arms. Her colleagues knew her mantra: stay focused, stay alive, bring them home. So when the deputy chief vacancy opened, an opportunity to shape policy, mentor every recruit, and drive the future of firefighting in Valley Ridge, her nomination by fellow officers felt as natural as sunrise. She'd prepared a presentation highlighting her initiatives on peer counseling and firefighter wellness, detailed her pilot program for integrating drones into reconnaissance, and gathered letters from community leaders praising her outreach to local schools. But when the promotion list was posted, she found a different name at the top: Captain Mark Holloway, whose tenure as a drill instructor was respected but whose hands-on rescue record paled next to hers. Alicia watched Holloway shake hands with the fire chief in the station's common room, the brass gleaming on his new badge. His smile was broad, but her own remained coldly polite as she approached. She offered a gracious "congratulations," though her heart felt heavy. In that moment, she knew that her years of service, her innovations in digital mapping for wildland fires, and her lifelong passion for rescuing others had still been outweighed by an invisible hierarchy she couldn't break. That night, she returned to her small apartment above the station's garage, the echo of her boots on concrete louder than her own thoughts. She peeled off her helmet and ran a hand through her hair, still damp from the evening call to a house fire. The room was dark except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the glow of her laptop screen, where she'd drafted an outline for a new firefighting manual. She closed the file and let out a slow breath, reminding herself of every life she'd saved: the elderly man trapped under fallen beams, the toddler rescued from a bathtub filled with scalding water, the couple guided out of a forest fire's edge. Despite the sting of being passed over, Alicia Reyes knew she still had work to do. The department's traditions ran deep, but fire never waited for permission. Whether she held the rank of deputy chief or not, she would continue to run toward danger, to pioneer new tactics, and to protect her community with every ounce of her strength. And in the fire's glow, where skill, courage, and heart mattered most, nothing could ever keep her from the mission she had chosen. When the first embers sparked at dawn, high in the granite-lined canyon, no larger than a glowing coal nestled among scrub pines, Alicia Reyes was already on the road, siren wailing as Engine 42 barreled toward the blaze. By the time she arrived, flames had leapt 40 feet up oak trunks, smoke towering into bruised sky. The local volunteer crews, still groggy from an overnight storm watch, hesitated at the canyon mouth as a wall of flame crackled and roared. Alicia slid from the cab and barked orders with calm urgency. "Lieutenant Morales, flank right with hoses. Captain Jensen, set backburn lines here." Her voice carried above the crackling inferno, each command precise. She vaulted atop the engine's bumper to survey the scene. Terrain too steep for bulldozers, wind shifting from the southwest. Without hesitation, she radioed for air support and, overriding her own doubts, took control of the department's new reconnaissance drone. Remote coaxing the drone above the smoke, she watched its infrared camera reveal hotspots hidden beneath cooling ashes and downed brush. She guided the air tanker's pilot through the murk, pinpointing the fire's weak points, where a burst of flame retardant could stop the spread. Back on the ground, crews followed her directions, dousing newly ignited fingers of fire before they could snake toward a ridgeside subdivision. The real test came when a sudden gust funneled the blaze toward Battalion 3's flank. Alicia didn't hesitate. She radioed a rapid retreat, ordered an emergency handline dug at the canyon's narrow neck, and personally plunged into the smoke to help hold the line. Sweat and ash streaked her face as she jammed dirt against burning roots, her turnout coat feeling more like armor than insulation. When a pocket of flames erupted unexpectedly, she lunged forward with a Pulaski tool, forcing the fire back with swinging blows. Hours later, as helicopters lifted away and trucks rolled into the staging area, Alicia gathered her exhausted crews. No homes had been lost, no firefighters injured. Residents who'd watched from safe distances cheered when she emerged, charred but triumphant, proffering water bottles and relief blankets. In that moment, her leadership had made the difference between catastrophe and controlled victory. Yet, as news helicopters circled overhead, Alicia's relief was tinged with concern. Though the blaze was contained, department protocol required a review of her drone operation and her unilateral orders. She sensed that her innovation, her very initiative, might soon face scrutiny from the same brass who'd denied her the promotion she had earned. Word of Alicia's nighttime drone deployment and hands-on fireline leadership spread through Valley Ridge like wildfire itself. By the next morning, local news crews had staked out the station house, their cameras trained on Engine 42 as its front bay door closed behind the returning crew. Residents streamed in with coffee and gratitude cards, and city council members sent staffers bearing proclamations of outstanding public service. Yet inside the station's gleaming offices, the mood was far colder. The fire chief summoned Alicia to his corner office, its panoramic window overlooking the blackened canyon floor. He offered a stiff nod. "Commander Reyes, while your courage is unquestioned, your actions, specifically the unscheduled drone flight and direct tactical orders, breach department policy. We must conduct an administrative review of your conduct before any commendation can be issued." His words landed like embers on fresh skin. Behind closed doors, rumor churned through the ranks. Some firefighters whispered that the department brass feared a backlash if they didn't follow procedure. Others quietly marveled that Alicia's recklessness had been the very thing that saved lives. She could feel the currents of opinion in every hallway. A rookie engineer stopped mid-step to murmur admiration, while a veteran captain passed over for promotion himself, shot her a wary glare, as if her daring threatened to upend the old hierarchy. Undeterred, Alicia prepared her own report. She cross-checked aviation regulations on unmanned aerial systems, documented the drone's flight path and maintenance logs, and compiled air support radio transcripts. She interviewed every crew member who'd followed her orders, recording statements that attested to the speed with which they'd extinguished the fire's worst flare. When she submitted her packet to the chief's assistant, the room felt charged with tension, as though every sheet of paper could spark another conflict. Meanwhile, local media seized on the story. Headlines blared, "Hero or Hazard?" and talk radio hosts argued whether chain of command mattered more than saving homes. Letters to the editor praised her innovative bravery, while others criticized the breach of protocol. Alicia's name trended on social media under hashtag Chief Reyes, drawing both support and criticism. In the midst of the storm, the fire chief postponed all station promotions and assignments until the review concluded. Engine 42's plaque bearing her name remained unadorned, and training schedules were shuffled to exclude her from the next officer development seminar. Each minor procedural delay echoed louder than the roar of the inferno she'd fought. Yet even as the department's bureaucratic gears ground toward action, Alicia sensed a shift. The community's voice had rallied to her side. Residents lined up at City Hall to speak at the next council meeting, and one by one they shared stories of home saved from smoke and flame. Their collective testimony became a shield around her. and she realized that whatever the outcome of the administrative review, her heroics had already forced the department and the entire city to grapple with a simple truth. Sometimes rules must bow to the urgent call of courage and innovation. The morning of the special command staff meeting dawned heavy with anticipation, sunlight slanting through blinds onto the polished conference table where every chief and deputy chief in the department took their seat. The fire chief, flanked by his legal advisor and the head of administration, opened the proceedings with a measured reminder of policy. No drone flights without prior authorization, no deviation from established tactics. Alicia sat quietly at the far end, her uniform crisp, her posture unbowed. Around her, officers exchanged guarded glances, some sympathetic, others dutifully reserved. As the fire chief reviewed the sequence of events, he cited departmental manuals and chain of command protocols, tracing each bullet point of her actions. Then he paused and looked at Alicia. "Commander Reyes," he said, "you understand the gravity of these violations." Her heart thumped, but in her chest beat the memory of homes saved and lives spared. She rose to respond, her voice calm but firm. "Chief, I understand policy. But when those rules threatened to cost lives, I chose to act on what I knew would work. I briefed air support, guided the drone, and directed the line, all in service of protecting our community." The room fell silent as she laid out her evidence. Maintenance logs proving the drone's readiness, radio transcripts showing clear orders to crews, and infrared footage capturing the fire's hidden hotspots. One by one, she called on her team leaders, Lieutenant Morales, Captain Jensen, Engineer Patel, to stand and attest that her commands had saved their positions on the line and prevented the fire from reaching the ridge homes. When Lieutenant Morales spoke, his voice trembled with gratitude. "Sir, without Alicia's real-time mapping, we would have been overrun. I lost my home in the 2002 blaze. If it rekindled here, there would have been no warning. She saved more than property. She saved our lives." Engineers and medics nodded, offering firm agreement. Several older officers shifted in their seats, their expressions softening as they heard the first-hand accounts of her leadership. Yet the head of administration stiffened, clearing his throat to remind the panel that rules existed to ensure unity and safety, not to be cast aside on a whim. Outside the glass walls, through the viewing window, junior firefighters pressed faces to the pane, silent witnesses to the debate that would decide their career paths and the department's future. Parents and council members, invited observers, stood behind them, clutching letters of support and wearing pins that read, "Innovate to Protect." After hours of testimony and argument, the fire chief rose. His gaze swept from his legal advisor to Alicia, then to the assembled staff before him. He exhaled and removed his cap, revealing streaks of gray. "Commander Reyes," he said, voice thick, "your actions saved lives and property. While you deviated from protocol, your judgment was sound. Effective immediately, all departmental policies regarding unmanned aerial reconnaissance are suspended pending permanent revision under your guidance. And I hereby commend you for your service." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "For your bravery and initiative, I also promote you to Deputy Chief, effective now." A burst of emotion rippled through the room. Some cried, some cheered, and even the head of administration offered a tentative, respectful nod. Outside, the junior crew let out an exultant whoop, tears sparkling on their cheeks as they raced to their radios to report the decision. Alicia remained standing, absorbing the moment not as vindication for herself, but as the dawn of a new era, one where courage and innovation would guide the Valley Ridge Fire Department as surely as any manual. And in the days that followed her promotion, Alicia Reyes moved through the station in a new uniform, gold trim on her shoulders, deputy chief stripes gleaming, and yet her first priority was to convene the very crews she'd once led into battle. She gathered everyone in the apparatus bay, where soot still clung to the walls from the canyon fire, and unfurled the department's dusty policy manual onto a folding table. Together, they tore out the outdated drone restrictions, the rigid chain of command passages, and every line that had hamstrung their response when seconds counted. In its place, Alicia wrote fresh directives on poster board. Innovation first, safety through communication, and every voice holds vital intelligence. That afternoon, she led a hands-on workshop in the dusty backlot, inviting mechanics to demonstrate motorized gimbal upgrades for the fire map drones and engineers to teach pilots emergency landing techniques for their air assets. Station cooks hauled out folding chairs and iced coffees, while rookie firefighters scribbled notes furiously on clipboards. Even the old guard, once skeptical of her methods, stood shoulder to shoulder with volunteers, testing the drone's live feed to pinpoint heat signatures beneath rusted debris. When a wind gust threatened the drone's stability, Alicia called for a quick calibration hack, and within minutes they'd adapted a simple counterweight system that kept the camera steady in gusty canyons. News of the department's open-source approach spread swiftly. Neighboring jurisdictions sent liaison teams to observe Rhea's model, taking photos of chalk-scrawled flight plans and recording the buzz of genuine collaboration in action. City Hall issued an emergency budget increase, earmarked for high-tech gear, but with a mandate that every purchase be vetted by frontline crews. Alicia shepherded those funds into thermal imaging systems, ruggedized tablets for instant reporting, and community education programs that taught homeowners how to prepare defensible space around their properties. Late one evening, as she walked past Engine 42, now freshly painted in the department's new emblem, a phoenix rising through flames, Alicia's phone buzzed with a text from the fire chief. "Thank you for redefining what it means to lead." She paused beneath the dim garage lights, her gaze lingering on the repaired canyon wall mural depicting her rallying the crews. In that quiet moment, she recognized that her fight had never been merely for rank or recognition, but for a fire service that honored both tradition and transformation, where every ember of courage could ignite a blaze of progress, and every firefighter, regardless of title, could step forward when the flames demanded new answers. When the mayor called an emergency city council meeting in the wake of the canyon inferno, Alicia rose before dawn to prepare her remarks. The chamber's heavy oak doors opened onto a hushed assembly of council members, department heads, and a gallery packed with firefighters, homeowners, and reporters. Banners reading, "Innovation saves lives," and "Honor bravery, embrace change," lined the walls, hand-painted by the very volunteers Alicia had mentored. As the public comment period opened, one by one, residents told their stories. The Martinez family spoke of sleeping through the wind-driven sparks that would have engulfed their home had Alicia's drone not guided fire crews in time. A retired teacher recalled seeing embers fall like rain and credited her safety to Alicia's quick orders. Even neighboring fire chiefs testified that they plan to adopt Valley Ridge's new policies in their own jurisdictions. Each testimony wove into a tapestry of gratitude and urgency, painting a vivid portrait of the heroism that had cost no lives. When it was Alicia's turn, she stepped to the podium with quiet confidence. She thanked the council for recognizing the value of adaptive tactics and urged them to enshrine the department's newly written directives into municipal code, mandating real-time incident innovation, frontline authority to employ emerging technologies, and an annual after-action review open to all ranks. She described how, under these reforms, her crews had quelled the canyon blaze faster than any comparable fire in recent history, saving millions of dollars in property damage and, more importantly, preserving lives. Council members leaned forward as she detailed the policy language: automatic approval for unmanned aerial operations under incident command, a fast-track process to integrate technological tools, and protected whistleblower status for any firefighter who proposed life-saving deviations. She closed by reminding them that fire does not respect bureaucratic boundaries, that governance must be as dynamic as the elements they fight. After hours of deliberation, the council voted unanimously to adopt her proposals. The mayor rose, gavel in hand, and proclaimed a formal city ordinance: Valley Ridge Wildfire Response and Innovation Act. He presented Alicia with the signed copy, draping a ceremonial red ribbon around it. As the chamber erupted in applause, Firefighters and residents alike rushed forward to shake her hand, some laughing tears of relief. That night, back at Station 42, Alicia pinned the new ordinance to the bulletin board above the gear racks. Her crews gathered around as she read aloud the final section. This act honors those who dare to lead by example and commits Valley Ridge to continuous innovation in the service of safety. In the glow of the emergency lights, they cheered and clapped, their unity a living testament to the power of courageous action tempered by thoughtful policy. And as they filed out into the crisp night air, each firefighter carried with them not just tools and helmets, but the knowledge that in their city, bravery and innovation would forever be written into law. Years later, as wildfire season heated the hills once more, Alicia Reyes watched from the balcony of the newly dedicated Wildfire Innovation Center she had helped establish. Below her, veteran firefighters and fresh recruits moved between state-of-the-art drone bays, simulation rooms, and research labs, testing next-generation fire-resistant materials. The center's mission to pioneer and share life-saving tactics had grown from a single canyon blaze to a nationwide network of sister facilities in 5 states. On this crisp morning, Alicia convened the center's annual Commanders Summit, drawing fire chiefs, incident commanders, and technology partners from around the country. They gathered under banners that proclaimed, "Remember the Canyon Fire," and "Forge the Future of Firefighting." As she took the stage, her uniform adorned with the Deputy Chief Gold and a silver pin shaped like a rising phoenix, she surveyed the eager faces before her. These were the leaders who had once enforced policies that stifled innovation. Now they had come seeking her guidance. She began with a story, the morning light glinting on towering pines, the hiss of flames racing up the slope, the moment she took control of the drone and changed the course of disaster. But she didn't dwell on heroics. Instead, she spoke of collective responsibility, of the families who slept safely through what should have been chaos, and of every firefighter who, armed with new authority and technology, returned home each night. Her words wove together gratitude for past courage and a challenge to constantly question whether old doctrines served the living or simply comforted the comfortable. Over the next 3 days, Alicia led workshops on rapid deployment drone nets, interactive command post simulations, and community-integrated evacuation planning. She moderated panels where young officers presented machine learning models for predicting fire paths and hosted roundtables where tribal fire crews shared centuries-old stewardship techniques for controlled burns. Between sessions, she listened as former skeptics recounted how the Valley Ridge reforms had saved their towns and inspired their own policy overhauls. On the summit's final afternoon, Alicia unveiled the Marshall Protocols for Fire Response, a living framework she co-authored with summit participants. These protocols codified real-time innovation, turning frontline ideas into approved tactics within hours, granting explicit authority to deploy emerging tools, and mandating annual community audits to keep strategies aligned with local needs. As she signed the final document alongside over 20 chiefs, cameras flashed, capturing the moment when once rigid fire services pledged to remain as adaptable as the flames they fought. That evening, as the summit closed and guests departed, Alicia slipped outside to the center's observation deck. Below, the canyon where it had all begun lay quiet under a blanket of stars, its slopes now dotted with new observation towers and fire-resilient vegetation. She stood in the cool night air, the scent of pine and damp earth drifting upward, and reflected on the journey, from being passed over for promotion to racing into flames armed only with conviction, to reshaping a nation's approach to wildfires. In her hand, she held a small framed photo of the first crew she'd led that night, faces streaked with ash, eyes alight with resolve. She smiled and placed it beside a model drone on the balustrade, a symbol of how far they'd come. And as the breeze whispered through the trees, Alicia Reyes knew that the true measure of her legacy was not in titles or ordinances, but in every life carried to safety on wings of innovation and every department that had learned to champion courage over convention.